Hey guys, it's Mike Fonopoulos, your academic coach, Springdale Public Schools, and today we're going to talk about real quick strategies that I use for ACT Science. And here I've given you, if you've ever been to one of my boot camps, you've probably seen this already. But if you haven't, I thought I'd share this with you. So I've given you 3 passages of an ACT Science test. Here's the first passage. And you know it's the first passage because it says passage 1 on there. Of course, that's real simple. You can see that each passage has about, 6, 7 questions on them. Here's passage 2, this is passage 3. And I picked it out for a specific reason. And I'll share that with you in just a minute. And then there's passage 6, the last passage. There's 6 passages on the ACT Science. And so the big thing that you need to remember is it's just like ACT reading. It's about reading comprehension. That is to say, you read something and then you tell someone what it is you've read. So everything that is in there is the answer. You don't need to know anything prior. There's not something you should bring in knowledge-wise from outside like you would ACT English and ACT Math. ACT reading and science, that's where it gets different. It's not about knowing something, it's about managing your time the best that you can and reading and comprehending the best you can. I think we do that a lot better once we understand the time constraints and how to get better with using our time. So let's manage our time better on this ACT Science test. The first thing I would do is I would not read these directions. I would not even start with passage 1. Passage 1 is usually the easiest one. ACT Science moves up in difficulty with each passage. And so what I would do is I would hop all the way over to the 6th passage. My mind is the freshest. I just got through with the ACT reading. I've had a little break. Now I'm going to come in here and get started on this. And this is what I do. A lot of kids wonder, well, should I come in here and start reading this business? Or should I come in here and take a look at this chart and this chart and this chart? And the answer is, of course, no, I would not. I'd take my eyes, I put it right there on number 35, and I start doing what 35 tells me to do. And then I would come here and I'd go 36 and do what it tells me to do. Notice that it says, according to figure 2, what is the order? And so I'd go right up here to figure 2. And the order is boom, 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 boom. Find that down here, and that's your answer, which happens to be D in this case. And then moving on. And so there you are. You're answering number 35, 36, 37, 38, some of the harder ACT Science test questions, and you're knocking them out fairly quickly. They're not hard. They're not hard at all. They just kind of make you think. But what makes it all more difficult is when you unnecessarily read all this stuff before you need to. So that's what I would do. I'd start with 6, and then I'd go find the conflicting viewpoint one. Well, that happens to be passage 3. You can take a look at them and see how they're quite different from one another. The conflicting viewpoint is, to the science people of ACT, what your English teacher would call a comparison essay. You're just comparing things. Here, you've got to read it all. You know you're there on the conflicting viewpoint because you notice there are no charts, no graphs, no pictures, nothing to get. It starts off with italicized words like scientist 1, scientist 2, scientist 3. Maybe on your test that you take here soon, it'll say lab results 1, lab results 2, lab results 3. Things of this nature. But you know you're there because you have no charts and no graphs. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read everything. And especially when I get down here, I'm going to start comparing things. Simply put, I'm going to see how scientist 1, in this case, and scientist 2 agree and disagree. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go, how does scientist 3 agree and disagree with scientist 1 and 2? So I'm going to take notes over all of this stuff. And then it's real simple. I'm going to start knocking these out. And these become so much easier. When kids just hop in here and start doing these, they got to go back and read. They got to go back and read. And they got to go back and hunt and peck and read some more. Just know that when I see the ACT Science test that has no charts or graphs, that's a conflicting viewpoint. That's a comparison moment. And like Willie Nelson said, you cannot write a song if you've got nothing to say. You can't compare anything if you don't know anything. So I got to get in here, and debate students will tell you, I got to go back and research a little bit. And that's all you're doing. And then you can answer these questions and you'll be flawless in them. And then at that point, I've done the 2 hardest ones. I've got the conflicting viewpoint out of the way, number 6 out of the way. These are the hardest ones. And I'm gonna go back to number 1, and I'm just gonna start chopping wood. I'm gonna start knocking it out. I'm gonna put my eyeballs right back on number 1. Notice it's a picture, it's a graph. I'm just gonna do what it tells me to do. Based on figure 2, there it is. I'm gonna go right up here and answer that question. Based on figure 1, according to figure 1, there's figure 1. I'm gonna knock it out. And I'm just gonna keep doing it. I'm telling you, you guys can really improve your ACT score a lot if you get this ACT science test knocked out. And the best way is to approach it correctly. The kids that come in here start reading directions, start reading this, trying to make sense of this picture of this mouse and all these things. Yeah, that's confusing and you're just wasting your time. Go and put your eyes on the question and just do what it tells you to do. This is a little bit different than the ACT reading, where you read a little bit, go to the questions, etc. So those are my tips for you in ACT Science. I believe if you'll put those into action, go start with the hardest one first, then find the conflicting viewpoint. There's one on every exam, and then start it all over with number 1 and begin. And again, put your eyes where they're supposed to go, not where they don't need to go. Well, Mr. Fontanopoulos, when do I read this? When the directions tell you to. When the question asks you to. All right. Good luck to everything you do in ACT Science. If you guys ever have any questions, please reach out. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.